Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to be bringing a brand new foundation week for you guys, and this particular foundation week we're gonna be focusing on high-end foundations. I'm talking about luxury, luxurious, expensive foundations that your bank account is gonna feel. So all the foundations I'm going to be reviewing during this foundation week are more or less foundations that are above 5,000 Kenya shillings, and I want to review them and answer the big question: are they actually worth it? So we're gonna be testing transferability, coverage, how does it feel, consistency, all that good stuff. I'm gonna be testing all that for you guys, and then I'm gonna tell you guys in my humble opinion, because at the end of the day it's my personal opinion, that you can take into consideration before you buy your own foundation. I'm gonna tell you guys whether I think it's worth it or not, and whether I would actually repurchase it. I'm gonna give you guys my 100% honest review. So let's go ahead and get started. Foundation week day 1, let's go. So today I'm gonna be reviewing the Estee Lauder Double Wear Stay in Place Makeup Foundation. Hey, that's a very long name, but this is how it looks. This is now currently the most expensive foundation that I own at 7,200 bob. I think what pained me more, guys, is the size of the foundation. Let me put my hand against it. It's quite tiny. It's quite tiny, guys. It's quite tiny. So I got mine in the shade 6W1 Sandalwood. You guys will see it's a bit dark for my skin tone, but then the other alternative was too light for me, so I decided to go darker because I find it much easier to work with something darker than something lighter. So I bought mine at Linton's Beauty World, and officially this foundation is definitely not 7,200. Officially on the Estee Lauder website and other sites like Sephora and Ulta that sell this foundation, unfortunately not in Kenya or Africa, this foundation goes for 42 dollars, which is I think like 4,200 shillings. So 4,200 shillings, and as we're buying it at 7,200, that really makes this a pricey foundation for us here. Anyway, this foundation, I think you're quite likely to find your shade. They have several shades. I couldn't really find exactly what shade, how many shades they have. Some sites were saying 56, some sites were saying 60, but I'm gonna insert a photo here of the shades and how they look. I think the darkest one goes pretty dark, and I think you're quite likely to find your shade. Okay, so one side we're gonna use a brush, and then the other side we're gonna use a sponge, just to see the blendability with each of these tools. So I'm just gonna use a very basic primer. This is the Maybelline Master Prime Hydrating Primer. When I was buying the foundation, the lady at the Lintons actually told me that this foundation dries down to a matte finish. So for sure you should always moisturize before you go in with the foundation, especially if you have dry skin. You could get dry patches because of how matte this foundation is. So make sure to moisturize before you get into it. When I have dry skin, or let's say I have dry combination skin, so my T-zone does get a little bit oily, but then the rest of my face is quite dry. Let me just put that out there. Oh, so something else I have to mention is that this foundation doesn't have a pump. Come on, we love pumps, guys. Don't we love pumps? So this can get a bit messy. However you're using it, whether you're putting it on a brush, whether you're putting it on a sponge, it can get messy because it doesn't have a pump. So we're gonna do the sponge on this side. We're also testing coverage. As you guys can see, what I told you, it's a bit darker than my actual skin tone. So that's one layer of the foundation. Let me come in closer. I have a bit of scarring on my cheeks. It's not quite being covered with just one layer. Although the thing is, I'm feeling like the sponge has actually sucked up a lot of the foundation. Even if it's damp, I feel like I've lost a bit of product by using the sponge. So we're gonna see if the brush will be the same, but that's one layer of the foundation. At this moment, I would say that this isn't full coverage, but let's try with the brush. This is the difference between the two sides. So I'm trying to use about the same amount I used with the sponge, but this time with the brush. Okay, hands down, we're getting way better coverage with the brush. Actually, this coverage I'm getting with the brush is insane. This is beautiful. This is full coverage. I actually have more scarring on this cheek than I do on this other cheek, and that is A1. That is A1 coverage. So that's the coverage I've gotten with the brush. You actually can't really compare it with what I've gotten with the sponge. I feel like the sponge has actually sucked up a lot of the foundation. That looks stunning. You know, in fact, what I love the most about it is that it's given me really good coverage, but then at the same time it doesn't look like I've put on heavy foundation, you know what I'm saying? So it looks natural, but then it's still given me that coverage. So let me work on this side. I think gonna add even still another layer. I think 2 layers of foundation is usually my happy medium. I forgot to talk about the consistency. Despite the fact that it's giving me this really good coverage, it's not heavy. You know, sometimes when you have a foundation that is full coverage, it tends to be heavy. So when you put one layer, it's heavy. It gives you the coverage you want, but then it's heavy. This one had a very light consistency. And actually also feels really good on the skin. It feels very light on the skin, doesn't feel heavy. So let's talk about the coverage just a bit. The coverage, I would say, is almost full coverage, almost, but it highly depends on the tool you use. So if you want a super nice light coverage, then I would say use the sponge, because some people actually like just a light coverage, so go with the sponge. If you want full coverage, if you have hyperpigmentation, if you have acne scarring, then you're gonna have to go in with 2 layers and maybe even an extra light layer on the areas where the hyperpigmentation and the acne scarring is a lot. Scent, oh yes, I also always check for scent, and if I haven't really noticed a scent, there's not really a scent. It has a very faint scent that just smells like a skincare product. Like, yeah, it smells like a skincare product, so scent isn't really a big issue. And I think now it's settled down. This is definitely a matte finish. This is a beautiful matte finish. I know some areas look a bit glowy, but that's just because of the light. It's fully matte. So let's do a side by side before I add any other products on my face, so that we can really see the coverage, the skin, what am I trying to say? The tone of the foundation. Okay, so now I'm gonna do the rest of my face. Like you guys have seen, this foundation is definitely not 100% my skin tone. It's a bit darker. So I'm gonna go ahead and do my makeup as usual, and using a light concealer is definitely going to just bring back the color into my face. Okay guys, so I just completed the rest of my makeup, did a bit of powder contour, threw in a highlight, threw in a lip, did some mascara, nothing too crazy. And as you guys can see, the foundation is looking so good. It's actually looking so good. One thing I'll say so far before we just jump into the wear test is that if you have dry skin, like really dry skin or even dehydrated skin, this may not be the foundation for you, because before I put the setting spray, after I had put the powder, I noticed that my skin was looking really dry. So I think this foundation could be really good for oily skin. I think it could perform quite well for oily skin, but not as well for dry skin. You could end up having dry patches. But if you still really want to go through with it, then make sure you really moisturize before you use it. Go in with a hydrating primer, and then after that go in with a good setting spray, not one that's gonna even make the foundation or the look more matte, but use something hydrating, like a really nice hydrating setting spray or a face mist, or even rose water actually could work because it's quite hydrating. That's how the skin is looking. It actually looks airbrushed, looks flawless. Mwah! So let's just quickly try and see if it's gonna... No, stop! Literally, okay, that one has taken me by surprise. No, we have to try again. No! Okay, I'm shook. I'm officially shook. I've never used a foundation that doesn't transfer. I'm shook, guys. I'm shook. Nothing. There's nothing. Let me even put the white part. Oh my god. Okay, that one for sure, I'm shook. I hadn't actually checked to test whether it transfers. So now the real test is gonna come with how it wears throughout the day, because so far this foundation is proving to be so good. So I'm gonna keep this on for a couple of hours, and then at the end of the day I'm gonna come and let you guys know how it performs, and we're gonna do a side by side. Okay, hi guys, I am back. It's a couple of hours later, not sure how many, but you guys can see the light has, I think it's even about to start raining, so I have to conclude this video before it gets dark or it starts raining. Right now I think it's about 4:30, and I think I did the foundation at around 12. So how many hours are those? 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5. I've had it on for 4.5 to 5 hours, and this is how it's looking. I haven't really looked at it much. I haven't touched up a single thing on my face, not my nose, not even my lipstick, despite me eating oily foods. I haven't touched up a single thing on my face. Let me grab a small mirror and let's get into this. The good thing is that I've worn this foundation once before, so I already know what to tell you guys about it. I've worn it for a much longer time than I have today. So I told you guys my T-zone is oily, and as you can see it's become a little bit more shiny than it was, but this is nothing crazy. This foundation, dare I say, actually looks better at the end of the day than when I first wore it. Dare I say, this foundation has me shook. Wow. I mean, like, I look a bit, I don't even think the word is shiny. I think I just look a bit more glowy in my T-zone area, and you know, just this area. This is just my highlight popping and being seen in Mars. It's not the foundation. This is a phenomenal this is a phenomenal foundation, you guys, and I don't even feel bad about spending that 7,200 anymore. I don't, because guys, look at this. So there were a couple of things that I was on the lookout for, and I asked you guys on Instagram what exactly you wanted to tell me. No, what exactly you guys wanted me to tell you about each foundation I review. So first thing was coverage. I think we already talked about that. Consistency, how it feels on the skin, we talked about that. It feels very light, and then the fact that it doesn't transfer, I don't know, it actually just feels like I haven't put on any foundation. We talked about the smell, that it has a very light skincare-y smell. And then we talked about the shade range. Now let's talk about suitability for different skin types. I told you guys I have dry or normal, you know, I've had dry skin for my whole life, so I've been saying I have dry skin. It's just in my mind all the time, but then I think now I'm moving a little bit into just normal skin, normal combination. So my T-zone is oily and the rest of my face is dry-ish, normal-ish. So if this is how my foundation is looking at the end of the day, just a little bit shiny in this area, then I actually think that this foundation would perform really well for someone who has oily skin. You guys will let me know if you have oily skin and you've used this foundation. Let us know in the comments down below how it performed for you. But my estimate or my guess is that if you have oily skin, then by the end of the day, some areas are definitely going to have a bit of oil. Nothing crazy and nothing that you can't fix just by blotting with a tissue. So I think this foundation is actually very suitable for oily skin. For dry skin, like I said, it's not as suitable because it can leave you with dry patches because of the way it dries down to a really matte finish. So it's suitable for most, actually I would say it's suitable for all skin types, but dry skin types have to take some steps before they apply it, which is just hydration and using even a hydrating face mist or setting spray, just so that you don't get the dry patches. Transfer, you guys were both shook, but now that it's been a couple of, actually it's 5 o'clock, why did I say it's 4:30? So I've had this foundation for 5.5 hours, and I want to check the transfer on this right now. That's what we have. Again, it's really not transferring. Like what's being left on my phone is just like the oils. Let me also put the white part. No, as in I've never used a foundation like this, guys. I'm not even kidding. Even my favorite affordable foundations always have a little bit of transfer. So I'm shook. I'm shook. This foundation, you can answer, like, guys, can you see this? I'm putting it literally on my face and then there's nothing on the phone, so you can answer the phone and it won't move. It literally won't move. Like, I think I would even go so far to say you can hug someone who has a white shirt and not be worried that it'll get on their shirt. Of course, cloth is a bit different from this, but the transfer, there's no transfer with this foundation, which has taken it to like another level for me. Something else I actually had forgotten to mention is that it has SPF 10, so that's always a good thing, although I encourage you to take care of your own SPF even before you get into foundation by using a sunscreen. Does it oxidize? Not at all. The way it looks when I first applied it, it's more or less exactly the way it looks now from what I can see. And I think the side by side, from the side by side, we could see that it's actually more or less stayed the same shade. So the shade you get is the shade that will be there even at the end of the day. Then ease of application. In terms of ease of application, blendability, we went into it with the brush versus the sponge. So if you want light coverage, we said you go in with a sponge because it really absorbs a lot of the product. And the truth is that this foundation is expensive and you don't want to waste any product. I want to look into my small mirror to see whether there was any creasing in this area. There's very little creasing, you know, here because of like talking and smiling. There tends to be quite some creasing, but from what I can see, it's nothing crazy. It's actually nothing crazy. You see, this is what I mean. There's a bit of creasing, but nothing crazy. The foundation also didn't move at all. Guys, I'm shook by this foundation. I know it's not even supposed to be 7,100 Kenya shillings. It's supposed to be 4,200 Kenya shillings officially, but this foundation is worth even that 7,200. If you can, I recommend it. I highly recommend it. So like I said, if anyone has used this foundation before, please let us know your experience with this foundation. Personally, I would recommend. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the first day of foundation week. I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow for yet another exciting review. And let me answer the big question, which is it worth it? I think I answered it. Did I? Yes. The answer is absolutely yes. When this bottle is over, I will be repurchasing this foundation. Full stop. Period. Bye guys.